Sun Tzu, also known as Sun Wu, lived during the late spring and autumn period of China, around 544 to 496 BCE. Born in the state of Qi, he later served as a general and strategist for the state of Wu. His enduring legacy comes from The Art of War, written between 500 and 430 BCE, a text that has shaped warfare and strategy for over 2 millennia. Rather than relying on brute force, Sun Tzu emphasized deception, intelligence, and psychological dominance. He believed that all warfare is based on deception, and taught that the highest form of victory is winning without battle at all. His strategies focused on striking at the enemy's weak points, using terrain as a weapon, and breaking morale before combat even began. These ideas transformed conflict into a calculated science of planning, adaptation, and control. From ancient Chinese generals to modern leaders like Mao Zedong and Douglas MacArthur, his principles continue to be studied in military academies, boardrooms, and governments worldwide. Sun Tzu's lessons prove that true power lies not in endless battles, but in foresight, patience, and making the enemy defeat themselves. Alexander the Great, born in 356 BCE in Pella, Macedonia, became one of history's greatest military minds. By the time he died in 323 BCE at just 32 years old, he had carved out an empire stretching from Greece to India. His battlefield brilliance lay in perfecting combined arms warfare. The Macedonian phalanx, armed with long sarissas, held enemy forces in place like an unbreakable wall, while his elite companion cavalry delivered decisive flank attacks. This hammer and anvil tactic brought victories such as Gaugamela in 331 BCE, where Alexander's outnumbered army crushed the Persian Empire. But his genius extended beyond open combat. In 332 BCE, at the Siege of Tyre, he faced a fortified island city shielded by massive walls. When direct assault failed, he ordered a causeway built across the sea, turning the island into a peninsula. After 7 months, his forces breached the defenses. Ancient accounts describe thousands killed and tens of thousands enslaved, a brutal reminder of his relentless drive. In just over a decade, Alexander never lost a battle. His strategies in phalanx coordination, shock cavalry, logistics, and siegecraft shaped warfare for centuries. Hannibal Barca, born in 247 BCE in Carthage, was one of Rome's most feared enemies. During the Second Punic War, he attempted the unthinkable, marching his army from Spain, across the Pyrenees, through Gaul, and in 218 BCE, leading thousands of men and dozens of war elephants over the icy Alps into Italy. The journey was brutal, but his daring surprise move brought war directly to Rome's doorstep. Hannibal's genius lay in strategy. He mastered deception and encirclement, using terrain and timing to trap larger armies. His most famous victory came on August 2, 216 BCE, at the Battle of Cannae. Facing a Roman force nearly twice his size, Hannibal drew them into the center of his formation, then closed around them from all sides in a perfect double envelopment. The result was catastrophic. Tens of thousands of Romans killed in a single day. Though Carthage would eventually lose the war, Hannibal's tactics became immortal, studied for centuries as the mark of a true military mastermind. By the way, I'm gonna be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'll greatly appreciate it if you could show support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Julius Caesar. In 100 BCE, in Rome, Gaius Julius Caesar was born, a man who would redefine the art of war. By the time of his assassination on March 15, 44 BCE, he had transformed both the Roman Republic and the battlefield through speed, precision, and engineering mastery. Caesar believed that velocity could decide empires. His legions marched at a remarkable pace, allowing him to intercept enemies before they could unite. In 58 BCE, when the Helvetii threatened Gaul, he hurried from Rome to confront them, even destroying a bridge at Geneva to block their advance. But speed alone was not his weapon. Caesar fused mobility with engineering brilliance. In 55 BCE, and again in 53 BCE, he built and crossed a wooden bridge over the Rhine in just 10 days. An audacious act that stunned Germanic tribes and showcased Roman power. His greatest display came in 52 BCE at the Battle of Alesia. There, his legions encircled Vercingetorix's massive Gallic army by constructing 2 lines of fortifications, one to hold the Gauls in, another to keep reinforcements out. The works stretched for miles, sealing the enemy's fate and forcing a dramatic surrender. Through relentless marches, bold crossings, and ingenious fortifications, Caesar forced larger enemies to fight on Roman terms. He was more than a general. He was a strategist who turned mobility and engineering into weapons that shaped the art of war for centuries to come. Khalid ibn al-Walid, remembered as the Sword of Allah, was one of the most brilliant military commanders of the 7th century. Born in Mecca and passing in 642, his campaigns stretched across Arabia, Iraq, and Syria, forever altering the balance of power in the region. His genius lay in unmatched speed, adaptability, and daring desert maneuvers, famously moving his armies across barren landscapes with camels carrying hidden water, allowing him to strike where no one thought possible. His defining moment came in August 636 at the Battle of Yarmouk, fought along the Yarmouk River. Facing a massive Byzantine force, Khalid used flexible command and relentless cavalry tactics to devastating effect. He organized a mobile guard, launched precision counterattacks, and concentrated his strength at critical points. After 6 brutal days of combat, his strategies shattered the Byzantine army, ending their centuries-long rule in Syria. Through victories at Ajnadain, Damascus, and ultimately Yarmouk, Khalid ibn al-Walid secured the foundations of the Islamic Caliphate. His mastery of rapid maneuver and ruthless concentration of force earned him a reputation as one of history's greatest battlefield commanders, a leader whose genius reshaped empires and left a legacy still studied today. Genghis Khan, born around 1162 on the steppes of Mongolia and ruling until he died in 1227, built the largest contiguous empire in world history. His armies thrived on mobility. Mounted archers struck with speed, launching volleys from a distance before disappearing across open terrain. He mastered the art of the feigned retreat, drawing enemies into pursuit, then turning back to surround and destroy them in devastating ambushes. Reconnaissance and deception were central to his strategy. Scouts mapped terrain and enemy movements, while psychological tactics, like inflated campfire counts or dust screens, tricked opponents into misjudging Mongol strength. This precision intelligence allowed his forces to anticipate and outmaneuver every foe. As his campaigns expanded into China and Persia, Genghis Khan integrated advanced siege techniques. Captured engineers and specialists were pressed into service, building machines to breach walls and topple fortresses once thought impregnable. By combining speed, deception, intelligence, and engineering, Genghis Khan reshaped warfare itself. His methods not only secured his empire but also influenced military strategy for centuries to come. Subutai, born around 1175 on the Mongolian steppe, rose from modest origins to become the greatest field commander of the Mongol Empire. Serving under Genghis Khan and later Ögedei Khan, he masterminded more than 20 campaigns, conquering more territory than any general in history. His genius was in operational art. Subutai could direct armies separated by hundreds of miles, moving in perfect coordination to strike enemies from multiple directions. At the Battle of the Kalka River in 1223, he and Jebi lured a coalition of Rus's princes and Cumans into pursuit with a feigned retreat, then crushed them in a devastating ambush. Nearly 2 decades later, in 1241, he orchestrated the Mongol invasion of Europe. At Mohi, his forces crossed the Sajo River with hidden pontoon bridges, while others attacked head-on, encircling and overwhelming the Hungarian army. These campaigns revealed a mastery of deception, timing, and synchronization far ahead of his time. Centuries later, military theorists recognized that Subutai's methods anticipated modern strategies of maneuver warfare, cementing his legacy as the Mongols' most brilliant commander. Admiral Yi Sun-sin, born in 1545 in Korea's Joseon dynasty, is remembered as one of the greatest naval commanders in history. During the Imjin War of 1592 to 1598, he defended Korea against repeated Japanese invasions, never losing a single battle despite overwhelming odds. His brilliance lay in disciplined fleet tactics, mastery of Korea's coastal straits, and the deployment of the Jeobukseon, the famed turtle ships, armored vessels with spiked roofs and multiple cannon ports, considered the world's first ironclads. His most legendary triumph came in October 1597 at the Battle of Myeongnyang. With only 13 ships under his command, Yi faced a Japanese fleet of more than 300 vessels. By exploiting the treacherous tides and narrow currents of the Myeongnyang Strait, he turned the geography into a weapon, sinking dozens of enemy ships while suffering almost no losses. His victory stunned Japan and restored Korean morale at a critical moment in the war. Yi Sun-sin's campaigns, totaling over 20 decisive victories, reshaped naval warfare and safeguarded Korea's independence. His legacy endures as a symbol of courage, innovation, and unshakable leadership in the face of impossible odds. Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden, born on December 9, 1594, rose to the throne in 1611 and led until his death on November 6, 1632, during the 30 Years' War. Known as the Lion of the North, he revolutionized early modern warfare by introducing light, mobile artillery that advanced with infantry and cavalry. His troops could fire coordinated volleys while maintaining speed and maneuverability, breaking away from the static and cumbersome formations of the past. Gustavus emphasized discipline and integration, uniting infantry, cavalry, and artillery into a single, flexible fighting force. His reforms reached their height at the Battle of Breitenfeld in 1631, where his army delivered a crushing victory over the imperial forces, proving that modern combined arms tactics could defeat even Europe's most powerful armies. Though he was killed the following year at Lutzen, his innovations became the blueprint for modern battlefield strategy, securing his place as one of history's most influential military leaders. Frederick II of Prussia, known as Frederick the Great, was born in 1712 and ruled from 1740 until he died in 1786. Over nearly half a century, he transformed Prussia from a modest northern state into one of Europe's foremost military powers. His greatest innovation was the oblique order, a maneuver in which he shifted his army to strike decisively against one flank of a larger enemy, overwhelming it before the rest of the opposing line could respond. This demanded unmatched discipline, and under Frederick's relentless drilling, the Prussian army became a finely tuned machine, capable of executing complex maneuvers with precision. In 1757, during the 7 Years' War, Frederick showcased this strategy at the Battle of Rossbach, where his outnumbered army crushed French and imperial forces. Just weeks later at Leuthen, he repeated the tactic, routing a much larger Austrian army through speed, surprise, and precision. By perfecting maneuver and fire discipline, Frederick set a new standard in modern warfare. His methods influenced generations of commanders, from Napoleon to the general staffs of the 19th century, and his campaigns secured his place as one of history's most influential military leaders. Horatio Nelson, born in Norfolk in 1758, rose to redefine naval warfare during Britain's struggle for supremacy at sea. At a time when fleets fought in rigid lines, Nelson shattered convention. He pioneered the bold tactic of breaking the line, smashing through enemy formations to create chaos and overwhelm ships in detail. At the Battle of the Nile in 1798, his fleet trapped the French at Aboukir Bay, destroying most of their ships and securing British dominance in the Mediterranean. But Nelson's genius was more than tactics. It was leadership. He forged a band of brothers among his captains, urging them to act with initiative, declaring that no captain could go far wrong if he placed his ship alongside the enemy. At Trafalgar in 1805, Nelson led 2 columns directly into the combined Franco-Spanish line, securing a decisive victory that guaranteed British naval supremacy for the next century. Though he fell in battle that day, his legacy endures as the admiral who fused audacity, innovation, and trust in his men to change the face of naval warfare forever. Napoleon Bonaparte, born in 1769 on Corsica, rose from humble beginnings to become Emperor of France and one of history's most revolutionary commanders. Between 1805 and 1807, he reshaped warfare across Europe. His innovation was the corps system, self-sufficient formations of infantry, cavalry, and artillery that could march independently yet unite rapidly for decisive battle. This gave his army unmatched flexibility and endurance on campaign. Napoleon paired this with his hallmark central position strategy. When facing multiple enemies, he would strike one with overwhelming force before the others could react. In 1805, during the Ulm campaign, he encircled and forced the surrender of an entire Austrian army without a major battle. Weeks later, at Austerlitz on December 2nd, he feigned weakness, drew in the Austro-Russian forces, and then smashed their center in one of history's greatest tactical victories. The following year, he crushed Prussia at Jena and Auerstedt through rapid concentration of his corps. And in 1807 at Friedland, he decisively defeated the Russians, compelling Tsar Alexander I to negotiate peace at Tilsit. Through speed, deception, and relentless campaigning, Napoleon revolutionized the art of war, leaving lessons still studied in military academies worldwide. Shaka Zulu, born around July 1787 in what is now KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, rose to power in 1816 and ruled until his assassination in September 1828. In just 12 years, he reshaped the art of war and forged the Zulu kingdom into a formidable power. He abandoned the old reliance on light-throwing spears and introduced the Ikalwa, a short stabbing spear designed for close combat paired with a larger cowhide shield. He reorganized his warriors into age-grade regiments, housed in military kraals, and drilled them with strict discipline and relentless mobility. On the battlefield, Shaka perfected the buffalo horns formation. The chest pinned the enemy, the horns encircled them from both sides, and the loins, held in reserve, struck at the decisive moment. Supported by young carriers supplying food and weapons, his armies could march long distances and fight with unmatched intensity. But his campaigns also ignited the Mefekani, a wave of conquest and displacement that rippled across southern Africa, giving rise to new states while devastating others. By the time of his death in 1828, Shaka Zulu had left behind a legacy of innovation and turmoil, remembered as both a brilliant reformer of warfare and a ruler whose ambition reshaped an entire region. Helmuth von Moltke the Elder, born in 1800 and serving as chief of the Prussian General Staff from 1857 until 1888, became the architect of Germany's modern military machine. He transformed the General Staff into the strategic heart of the army, institutionalizing planning, intelligence, and training. Moltke was among the first to grasp the military potential of railways, designing detailed mobilization timetables that allowed Prussia's armies to move faster and strike harder than their rivals. Equally groundbreaking was his embrace of mission-type orders, Auftragstaktik, where commanders were given intent rather than rigid instructions, enabling flexibility and initiative on the battlefield. This concept laid the foundation for modern mission command. His methods were proven in the Wars of German Unification. At Königgrätz in 1866, Moltke's distributed, converging offensives crushed Austria. Just 4 years later, his meticulous railway mobilization and coordination delivered victory over France at Sedan, leading directly to the proclamation of the German Empire. Through organization, technology, and doctrine, Moltke redefined the art of command, and his influence still shapes military strategy today. Ulysses S. Grant, born in 1822 in Ohio, rose from modest beginnings to command the Union Army during the American Civil War. His defining achievement came with the Vicksburg Campaign of 1863, where, through bold maneuvers and a 47-day siege, he forced the city's surrender on July 4th. This victory gave the Union full control of the Mississippi River and split the Confederacy in two. Grant's approach to warfare was different from many of his contemporaries. He recognized that the South could not be defeated by a single blow. Instead, he orchestrated simultaneous offensives on multiple fronts, forcing Confederate forces to stretch thin. He mastered the use of logistics, coordinating armies and navies across vast theaters, and applied continuous pressure, knowing the Union's industrial and manpower advantages would wear the Confederacy down. Appointed General-in-Chief in 1864, he directed the relentless campaigns against Robert E. Lee that culminated in the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse in April 1865. Through his vision of coordinated offensives, reliance on logistics, and willingness to embrace attrition, Grant transformed the Union's potential into decisive victory, shaping the outcome of the war and the future of the United States. Heinz Guderian, born in 1888 in Kulm, Prussia, was the German general who became known as the father of Blitzkrieg. A career officer in the Reichswehr, he studied armored warfare in the interwar years and in 1937 published Achtung, Panzer, laying out a vision for fast, decisive combat led by tanks, supported by aircraft and motorized infantry, all linked by radio. As commander of Germany's mobile troops in 1938, Guderian turned theory into practice. In September 1939, his panzer divisions cut deep into Poland, overwhelming resistance in just weeks. The following May, he led the breakthrough at Sedan during the invasion of France, driving armored columns to the English Channel and forcing the collapse of French defenses in 6 weeks. Though often in conflict with Hitler, Guderian's mastery of speed, mobility, and combined arms defined Germany's early victories in World War II. His ideas reshaped modern warfare, proving that tanks were not support weapons. but the spearhead of an army. Georgy Zhukov, born in 1896, rose from humble origins to become Marshal of the Soviet Union and the most celebrated commander on the Eastern Front during World War II. Known for his mastery of large-scale offensives, Zhukov embodied the Soviet doctrine of deep operations, using massive artillery preparation, encirclements, and multi-front coordination to overwhelm his enemies. In November 1942, he co-planned and directed Operation Uranus at Stalingrad. This double envelopment trapped the German Sixth Army, over 250,000 Axis troops, inside the city, marking the decisive turning point of the war. Just months later, in July 1943, Zhukov oversaw Soviet defenses and the counteroffensive at Kursk, the largest tank battle in history. There, German armored thrusts were absorbed and then shattered as the Red Army pushed westward with relentless force. By May 1945, it was Zhukov who commanded the final assault on Berlin, personally accepting Germany's surrender. His campaigns not only broke the back of Hitler's war machine, but also demonstrated the power of coordinated, large-scale operations, securing his place as one of history's most influential military leaders. Dwight D. Eisenhower, born in 1890 in Texas, became Supreme Allied Commander in December 1943, entrusted with leading Operation Overlord, the liberation of Western Europe. By June 6, 1944, he directed the largest combined land, sea, and air operation in history, the D-Day invasion of Normandy. Eisenhower's strength was coalition leadership. He unified American, British, Canadian, and Free French forces under one command, managing rivalries between figures like Montgomery, Patton, and de Gaulle. His authority ensured cooperation in a war effort where unity was as vital as firepower. His operational genius showed in coordination. Amphibious landings, airborne drops, and naval bombardments were synchronized on a scale never attempted before. To protect this gamble, he oversaw Operation Fortitude, a deception that convinced Hitler the invasion would strike at Pas de Calais. German forces remained pinned there, buying precious time for the Allies to secure their beachhead. Behind the spectacle of battle, Eisenhower's mastery of logistics sustained the advance. Artificial harbors, captured ports like Cherbourg, and endless streams of supplies kept momentum alive. His legacy endures as the commander who proved that modern victory required not just strategy, but the unbreakable coordination of nations. Mao Zedong, born in 1893 in Hunan, China, rose to prominence as the military and political leader who shaped the course of modern China. His most enduring contribution was the theory of the protracted People's War, laid out in works like On Guerrilla Warfare, 1937, and On Protracted War, 1938. Mao argued that victory did not depend on superior weapons, but on mobilizing the masses, especially peasants, into a revolutionary army. He established rural base areas where communist forces could train, expand, and wage guerrilla campaigns, striking supply lines and ambushing stronger foes. This method was tested during the Long March of 1934 to 1935, when the Red Army survived encirclement by retreating thousands of miles and preserving its core. Over time, Mao's forces transitioned from small-scale guerrilla tactics to larger conventional battles, eventually overpowering Chiang Kai-shek's nationalists. By 1949, Mao's strategy secured communist victory and the founding of the People's Republic of China. His doctrine of combining political mobilization with phased military escalation went on to influence revolutionary movements across Asia, Africa, and Latin America for decades. Vuong Nguyen Giap, born in 1911 in Quang Binh, Vietnam, rose from a schoolteacher to the architect of one of the most decisive victories in modern military history. As commander of the Viet Minh, he transformed guerrilla resistance into a full-scale people's war fought at the theater level, blending irregular tactics with conventional operations. His greatest triumph came in 1954 at Dien Bien Phu. Against a heavily fortified French garrison, Giap oversaw the extraordinary movement of heavy artillery through jungle mountains, where thousands of porters hauled multi-ton guns piece by piece using ropes and pulleys. Once in place, his forces carved miles of trenches and dugouts, steadily tightening a noose around the French. After weeks of relentless bombardment and infantry assaults, the garrison of more than 11,000 men surrendered. The victory ended French colonial rule in Indochina and shocked the world. Giap's strategy proved that a determined, mobilized population, through careful planning, logistics, and endurance, could overcome a technologically superior power, leaving a legacy that reshaped modern warfare. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thank you very much.